Live from the heart of the Blue Ridge, Roanoke, Virginia. It's the Just Bernard Show with host Bernard Alvarez. Join Bernard as he shares topics that reveal the real matrix and empower your human experience, including world liberty, the esoteric, suppressed technologies, spiritual ascension, and human consciousness. Humanity has awakened, and our time has come to realize our full potential. And now, live from the Star City, your host, Bernard Alvarez.
Well, happy Halloween greetings, everybody, and welcome to today's broadcast. We are continuing the season of The Witch today, and I'm so glad to have you here joining us. So, let's see. So far, we've had, last couple weeks ago, we had Oberon Zell joining us live, which was fantastic. Before that, we did Tarot Astrology. And last week, unfortunately, I wasn't able to be here. And first of all, let me just thank all of you for all your well wishes. I had some minor surgery, carpal tunnel, working on computer most of my life. But had carpal tunnel surgery, and I'm healing just fine. So it'll be great. Hopefully when it all gets healed up. Got a few more weeks of that to deal with. But anyway, in keeping with the tradition, I thought, wouldn't it be a lot of fun for us to have some fun with the Samhain season and share some real-life ghost stories? I asked some of you to share with me if you have any, and by all means, you are welcome to share some of your experiences in the chat. I think that would be great if you shared a little bit. And actually, I see someone on there. Hi, Kelly. I'm going to mention a creepy thing that happened to us when we were kids. I hope that's okay. But hello to Kelly on Facebook and Bill on Facebook, as well as Kathy on Facebook. And as you all know, we are streaming on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram, and Twitch, and my website. But so before we get into the stories, and I'm looking forward to sharing some of these, I want to remind everybody that next week we are going to be celebrating Samhain together. We'll be doing interactive live Samhain Sabbath for those of you that want to celebrate this season and want to celebrate the cross-quarter day between the autumn equinox and the winter solstice. This is a time of the year when the veil between the worlds is very thin. It's a wonderful time to attune with our ancestors and those who have passed on, and we will be doing that during next week's broadcast as well. And of course, we'll be doing a seasonal spell also. If you go to my Facebook page and look at the events coming up next week, you can get all the details if you want to prepare and join us live and participate. It'd be great. And gosh, it'll be like, what, our 5th year in a row we've done it live. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Now, a couple years ago, God, it's been 2 years already, I can't believe it. A couple of years ago, I was invited to speak at a local event called Hoot and Holler, and they wanted people who had scary stories. People. It was for Halloween, of course. And these are a couple of the ones. I chose 1.5. And I'll be sharing that one with you today. I do have, I've had so many paranormal experiences in my lifetime. I've had so many ghost and creepy, spooky experiences. It's gone to the point, literally, where things happen that are what some might consider paranormal on a regular basis, and I don't think twice about it. So I can see spirits moving throughout the corner of my eye, or I feel some presence or whatnot. It doesn't affect me anymore because I've gotten used to it. But as a kid, And I bring it up because as a kid, I wasn't used to it, and it really scared the heck out of me. Not to mention, I'm pretty sure, actually, I am sure that I lived in a haunted house when I grew up. The house I grew up in North Miami Beach had a lot of creepy things going on. And growing up there, not knowing, I didn't know much about my background. I was adopted, so I really didn't know that I was Native American until just 10, 20 years ago. And so I didn't know much of the history of the house or the history of the family. But many years later, one of my teachers, who was also a medium and a very well-known, well, in the area, he was a well-known magical instructor, had said, yeah, your family's got some curse put on it. And I'm like, what do you mean, my birth family? He's, no, the people who adopted you, there's a whole thing going on there. And come to find out, about 15 years ago, I found out that my great-grandfather was cursed in Cuba, my adopted family. So I wonder if some of that stuff that went on in that house had something to do with that. And some of the stories I'm sharing with you today, one of them will probably lean toward that. So let me start off with the first memory I have of something, well, very scary as a young child. This particular story happens in the house in North Miami Beach, probably in the late 70s. I was in grade school. I was going to Montessori school in Miami Shores at the time, and every day when I would come home after school, I liked to go in my parents' room. They had a color TV in there. It was a big deal to have a color TV in the bedroom back then. So I'd go and sit on my parents' big king-size bed and watch the color TV. And to the right of the TV, there was they had a big walk-in closet, and it had like one of those, I don't know what you want to call it, pocket door, I think is what they call it now. Had a pocket door, and the pocket door was closed. And I remember calling out to my mother, as I always did, at, I guess, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, having come home from school, asking for my snack. And I remember calling out to her, you know, Mom, I want SpaghettiOs. And back then, everybody had SpaghettiOs. And it was shortly after that, like moments after that, that door that I was describing to the right of the television, that pocket door slid open all by itself. And being the curious young child that I was, of course, I walked into my parents' walk-in closet, and the light was off. And you have to imagine that, you know, to the left of me was all my father's clothes. In front of me, there was a dresser. And to the right of me was all of my mother's clothes. And I had heard something in the right-hand corner between the dresser and where my mother's clothes was hung up. And I thought I heard something, and I walked toward it. And this is a little creepy. The memory is coming very real to me. Something, and I'll go into detail what it looked like, jumped out at me and grabbed my hands and grabbed my hands and put it into its mouth, for lack of a better term. And I just turned around and I screamed and I ran and told my mother exactly what happened. And, you know, of course, she investigated and nobody saw anything. And she told the family, and they're like, oh, he's got an active imagination. You know, he's always been a weird kid. Needless to say, the image was, you got to realize I was probably about, 3.5 feet tall at the time, first, second, third grade, something like that. And the image was probably a little bit taller than me. And I remember it had like this dark blue cloak. And it had no face. The face was black. And the hands were, for lack of a better term, they were witchy hands. You know, witchy, demonic hands with long fingernails and whatnot. And so, of course, I screamed and I jumped back. So, many years later, that happened probably in the late 70s. Many years later, when I began, you know, training officially as a magician and a witch and whatnot in my early 20s, one of my teachers, Reverend Rel Davis, who was the Unitarian minister down there in Florida and the head of the CUPS group and whatnot down there. And I explained to him what happened. And he's like, that, I forgot the word he used, but he said that it wanted to eat your power. He did this whole reading on me that you were incarnated for this particular reason and whatnot. He said it was literally trying to eat your life force energy. And I was like, oh my God, that made it even scarier. So that has always stuck with me. And the image of that creature kind of always stuck with me. And that's just one of many things that happened within that house. Within that house. After that, oh boy, all these memories are coming back. All the weird things that happened in that house. Let me share this one because I didn't write this one down, but it just popped into my head. So maybe there's a reason why I need to share this. About 1978. Now, this isn't necessarily a ghost story, but it is a paranormal experience, and it is a creepy encounter. I would say about 19. No, I remember it was the summer of 1980. I had to go to summer school. It's a long story. I won't get into that. It was the beginning of my bad boy years. But I remember we had something called On TV. It was before HBO. It was before cable. There was something called On TV, and it was like a movie channel. You paid an exorbitant amount of money for this one movie channel. But on the movie channel, there was the film Grease. And I just remember watching Grease over and over and over in my parents' living room in the house in North Miami Beach. Anyway, I was watching it, and my cousin was there with me, the one who happened to live about 4 or 5 houses down. And I remember he went to the bathroom. So we're watching the TV in front of it was a couch with another small color TV in front of it. But over my right shoulder, there was a hallway that went down a very short hallway to the guest bathroom, for lack of a better term. And I remember my cousin getting up from the couch, going to the bathroom, and he came out, and he turned the corner around the hallway and said, "Did I miss anything?" And I turned to look at him, and within a flash, the same exact thing happened. He walked out of the room, walked into the bathroom, came out, and said, "Did I miss anything?" It was, I saw somebody post about it today, a glitch in the Matrix. It was almost like a time slip. Like I relived the same exact moment within seconds of each other. And this is, well, I guess I was 11, 12 years old at the time. So I was like, wow, this is pretty interesting. Anyway, that just popped into my head as I'm thinking about that. I want to say hi to a few people before I move on to a couple more of these, because I've got quite a few of them. And I'm probably only going to tell about 2 or 3 more since we've only got about another 20 minutes. But I do want to say hi to you all. Hello, Honey Witch. Happy Samhain on YouTube. How are you? Hi, Julie. Hello, Martin. Hi, Susie. Hey, Bill. Oh, my goodness. From Dunedin. How are you? Fat Boy Sam. Good to see you again on YouTube. Wonderful. Yes. Thank you. I'm glad you like the idea, Fat Boy Sam. Hi, Adam. SJ, Kylie. So quite a few chatting it up on YouTube and Facebook. So good to see you all, and thank you for joining and listening in today. In case you just got here, I'm just going to remind everybody that we are doing Samhain next week. So head on over to my Facebook event page and read the details if you want to participate. If not, you can just watch and follow along. But it will be a lot of fun, I'm sure. It's always good every year, and it's great to do a Sabbath, live with, God, I think last time we had like 800 people. It was pretty cool. So back to these creepy encounters and ghost stories. This one is a little bit hard for me to tell, and it's very personal. And this probably leans into this whole quote unquote curse that my adopted family's great grandfather had put on him in Cuba. So I grew up in Miami. I grew up in a Cuban home, Miami Cuban Santeria, lots of it. Was Some family members were involved in it, and I had a cousin who got involved in it. Anyway, so I was probably, geez, I want to say between 10 and 12 years old when this happened. And this starts off as a dream. And in the dream, now, well, in the dream is my front yard. And my front yard had this very big ficus tree. It was the big shade tree. And underneath the shade tree, my father had put these two benches with a table in the middle. And, that's where all his neighborhood friends used to hang out and, drink beer after work and relax or whatnot. And all us kids used to climb the tree. It was a great climbing tree. The way it was like, ficus trees are great climbing trees. And the way it was set up, it was like a spiral. And you can go up to the top of the tree and see the whole neighborhood. And that was back before parents were afraid you'd fall and break your neck, But, so this shade tree is an integral part of the story, because underneath the shade tree was a little bit more lawn before the sidewalk. And in the dream, I'm seeing all my family members underneath the tree in a circle. And they're all looking down, like they're all in a circle and they're looking down at something. And in the dream, I'm walking out the front door and I'm turning, veering off to the right, which is where the tree and the circle of people were underneath the tree. And I remember trying to get in to see what they were looking at, and they were like pushing me back and pushing me back. And finally, I just got aggravated and fed up, and I pushed my way through the chain of people, the circle of family members, and I see a hole in the ground, and it was a grave. And I look into the grave, and I see my cousin. I'm not going to say any names. If my family's watching, I don't want to give away, too many family secrets publicly. But it was a cousin of mine who was in the grave, one of my favorite cousins, actually. And he was reaching up out of the hole, and he grabbed my arm, and I could see like his desperation, like, help me. And he was like asking me to pull him up out of the hole. And I'm freaking out, here I am. I'm like, what's going on here? And just at the moment that this is happening in the dream, I feel a tug on my arm, and I'm being shaken up. I'm being woken up. And it's my mother. She was shaking me and asking me to wake up. And she's crying, and, she's freaking out over something. And within 5 seconds of me waking up, she's like, you have to get up. Your cousin is dead. Your cousin's dead. And I was blown away. I won't go into too many details about the death, but it was very shocking, and that was the first time I ever had a prophetic dream. I have them all the time now, which is, I've gotten used to it, but that was my first one, and it really shook me. That was very, very scary for a 10 or 11-year-old to go through. My goodness, jeez. But so yeah, that was that. Pretty crazy stuff. The next episode again happens in this house. I gotta say something about this house. Every time I dream about this house, it ends up being a nightmare. To this day, I haven't lived in that house since 1997 or 1998, so over 20 years. every time I dream about this house, it ends up being a nightmare, and I can't help but wonder how the current residents are doing in this house. I don't know. But to this day, every time I dream about the house, I force myself awake. I'm like, oh no, this isn't going to end up good. I got to wake up. But anyway, so this one's it's a little bit more lighthearted, because I'm not alone. But it was just very interesting because this time I had a friend of mine actually, who I think is watching or was watching earlier, and we were probably about 13 years old, and we were just. I think at that time we were like phone friends. Remember when we used to talk on the phone for hours? I don't even like to talk on the phone. But I had started exploring witchcraft at the time, and I believe we were talking about witchcraft and witchcraft books, and we got into talking about astral projection. And I remember I was sitting at the dining room table, and I was hanging out with one of my friends, and we were talking or whatnot. And this was just like a really cool moment. It's nothing too scary, but creepy, but cool. And again, I had never met this person. They have never been to my house or whatnot. And we're talking, me and my friend are talking in the dining room, and the phone rings behind me, the kitchen phone with the long cord, the avocado green wall phone with that long 30-foot cord rings. And I get up to answer the phone. And they're like, oh my God, I just tried astral projection. I'm like, what? They're like, does your house, were you just sitting at your dining room table? And on your dining room table, do you have this? And does your dining room table look like this? And do your dining room chairs look like, and in exact detail, exactly what was going on. And I mean, detail for detail. And I was like blown away. So that kind of was an inspiration to keep going down this path and learning more about, paranormal and metaphysics and magic and witchcraft and whatnot. But that was really cool. So that was kind of wow, hey, this stuff really works. I've only done it 2 or 3 times successfully. I'm not too good at astral projection. Out of body, that's a little bit different. But anyway, I won't go into the subtleties of all that right now. But again, within that house, very interesting, about 15, 16 years old, my parents were away. And a bunch of my friends came over. My parents are away. I'm going to have a party. So we were sitting in the Florida room. Yeah, we have Florida rooms down there. We're sitting back in the Florida room. And I don't know what we were doing. We were just giggling and having a good time. And suddenly, one of the bedroom doors slammed shut. And they're like, oh my God, did the door slam shut? And then boom, another door slammed shut. So here I've got like 4 or 5 friends with me, and they're starting to freak out. As they're freaking out, we look up, and one of the ceiling fans, which is off, starts spinning uncontrollably. So they're wanting me to go look in the bedroom and see what's going on, and I'll get into why that bedroom was so freaky in just a minute. So that was one of my experiences where, okay, now I've got friends who saw this. I'm not going crazy. They saw it too. There's something in this house. Speaking of that house, I had a bedroom, and of course, the best stories are from that house, but I've got a couple more I'll share that are out of that house if we have enough time. Yes, I'll squeeze one in. That house, I had a very cool 80s bedroom. My family had built an additional bedroom in the back of the house. It ended up turning it into a 4-bedroom house. So my house was out by the pool. My bedroom was out behind the Florida room by the pool, overlooking the backyard and the pool. And my dad was what's the word he liked to use? He was a carpenter, but he used a custom design furniture designer. I forgot what the word he was. He was pretty famous in South Florida. He did like Sophia Loren and Burt Reynolds and had the Bee Gees and a lot of big South Florida customers. But anyway, he was really good at custom work. And he did my bedroom I wanted it to look like those old 70s stoner vans with the paneling and the carpet on the wall and mirrors and stuff. And he did it. He customized my bedroom. And so I had these diamond shapes going down the paneled wall with carpet, trim around it and whatnot. Very, very early 80s type stuff, but pretty cool for a high school kid, And I had a waterbed. Had to have that waterbed. So one night, here's another one of those oh my god type moments. I'm laying in my waterbed and I'm just relaxing, listening to music. And actually, I think I had a friend stay over. I'm almost positive. Yes, my best friend at the time was staying over, and we were just kind of like laying in the bed, like staring up at the ceiling or talking BS, whatever. And out of the mirror, an apparition comes out of the mirror and hovers over us. And it's my grandmother. My grandmother, well, it was my grandmother. And I remember my best friend jumping off of the bed and screaming, holy S, and hiding under the bed, trying to get under the little cubby underneath the platform of the water bed. He's freaking out. I jump off on the other side, and I run out the door to the kitchen, I guess, where there was more light or something like that. And I was afraid something was out there because something had happened, and I won't get into that story. I don't have time for that one. Something went on in the main part of the house a couple weeks before that. But and then I didn't, I was like, oh my, they're like, dude, the guy was kind of a surfer dude, and he's like, dude, that was your grandmother. I'm like, I know, what is going on? And yes, next day, come to find out that my grandmother had passed. She had been staying at a local nursing home, convalescent home, and it turned out she had passed away. So I look at it as a nice thing. She just came to say goodbye to me and scare my friend. So that was pretty freaking interesting. I've only got a couple more minutes, so I'm going to share something that happened recently. And actually, I got a good one, two short, quick ones. I'm very happy to say that my familiar, I don't know how many of you remember Isis, my white cat, who was my familiar since, 1999 or 2000. My ex-husband got her for me, or I got it for him, and he ended up leaving it with me, so she ended up being but she did become my familiar. Anyway, she passed away about 4 years ago, and to this day, I still see her walking around. To this day, she still cuddles up against my neck when I'm laying in bed, and I can feel her little paws walking on the bed and I'm like, oh, it's Isis, because I know Isis used to like to sleep here, whereas Sophia Kitty likes to sleep on this side of me, and Luna Kitty likes to sleep on my left foot. So when I feel something here, I'm like, that's Isis Kitty. So I still feel her, I still see her, and that's really cool, and I like that. I know she's still watching over me. On a spookier note, about 4 or 5 months ago, I went to do a house cleansing at an old, for lack of a better term, antebellum mansion. Beautiful home. Had to be probably 120 years old, at least 100 years old. And I was called in because the people that lived there were being harassed by something. They felt this presence that was literally one time it like pushed them out of bed, other times it would like try to like push them down and they would feel pressure. Well, I went into when I start a house blessing, especially on a big house like that, I'll always start off in the center of the basement, and I do the Kabbalistic cross. And the middle pillar ritual. For those of you that know ceremonial magic, you'll know what I mean. And it's just so I can expand my aura and connect, with divine source and ground myself. Anyway, as I'm chanting the as I'm chanting the words to do the cross, the Kabbalistic cross, I felt the exact same thing. Something was pushing on my shoulders, like trying to push me down, like trying to get me to kneel. And I was like, that's not going to happen. I don't kneel to nobody. And that was probably the last time where I was like, am I in deeper than I can handle? And luckily I was, and it wasn't an issue. And the issue has been resolved. I had to go back one more time to do the outside, but everything has been fine ever since then. But yeah, that was like, wow. And especially in a creepy old 100-year-old basement. But anyway, so, I have found that, and we talk about, and one of the reasons why I wanted to do this, because this is quote unquote the season of the witch. It's Samhain time. This is the time when the veil between the worlds is thin, and this may be a time that your ancestors, your relatives who may have passed recently, may want to connect with you. And all I can say is, don't be afraid. They live on, and they are always communicating with us, whether we know it or not. Some of you, they may be your guardians, your spirit guides. And the point of the matter is that I learned a long time ago that the supernatural is not really supernatural. We've just been conditioned to think that it's spooky, the propaganda of, devils and demons and this and that. And whereas in all the indigenous cultures, it has always been a part of their lives, of our lives, to, either worship the dead, acknowledge the dead, and acknowledge the spirit world. And Halloween, Samhain, is a perfect example of that. Dia de los Muertos is another wonderful tradition that follows along these lines. So with that being said, I say to you, yeah, bad things do happen. Yeah, there are negative entities out there that will harass you and whatnot, but you usually have control over the situation. And sometimes it's as easy as saying, leave me alone, get out of here, my house, my life, get out. But just catch yourself that you're not reacting to what you've been programmed to believe about these types of experiences. They're not always awful. They're not always out to get you. 9 times out of 10, they're not. It's just someone trying to communicate with you. Anyway, so again, let me remind you that next week we are speaking of communicating with the dead, we won't be communicating with the dead next week, but we are going to attune with our loved ones. So I guess I'll cover it real quick. Next week, join me at 3 p.m. or half hour prior to this time that you're watching me now live, if you're watching live. Bring an artifact, an image, a picture, a reminder, a token that reminds you, a sentimental piece that reminds you of the person you want to attune with. As well, think about what you want to let go of from this last year. Those of us who follow this calendar, we're lucky because this is kind of our new year. It's like, okay, it's the end of the year. I'm getting ready to let go of all this stuff, and these last 7 months or so, it'll be easy to let go of some stuff. So think about what you want to let go of. What aspect of your life are you ready to say goodbye to? And think about who you want to commune with. And we'll be doing that together next week. Also, this Saturday, I am going to be finishing up the final edits for the Awakening Code course. So keep an eye out for that. Yes, of course, there will be like a 50% off discount for the course for the first few weeks. But this is a course I'm really proud of. There's over 5 hours of instruction. Yes, it will be broken up, so you won't have to do it all at once, even though I probably suggest you do it all at once. The Awakening Code, the way I've created it, and actually this will help you if you want to commune with people. The way that I've created the Awakening Code is to heal ourselves. There will be healing involved. To open up and clear our energy centers to allow natural life force energy in. We'll be doing past life regression for those of you that have some old stuff that needs to be worked on. We'll be doing shamanic soul retrieval, and I will help you connect with your spirit guides. So this is kind of the course to cleanse, empower, and get the tools to move forward on your own spiritual path and really blow out those chakras. Well, I shouldn't say that. That's not a good thing. Don't blow out your chakras. Expand your aura. That's what I meant to say. Expand your aura and give you the tools to be confident in your spiritual path and your spiritual experiences. So it may be coming out on Saturday. We'll let you know, of course, if it does. In the meantime, if you're a Facebook person, please consider becoming a supporter. Just click that blue button. YouTube, I will be doing that soon. If you're watching on YouTube, they gave me the option. I just haven't had time to put it together. So you can become a subscriber on YouTube in the next few weeks, probably. Anyway, happy Halloween. Happy Samhain. And I look forward to celebrating with you all next week. I love you. Bye-bye.